Part 29. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 282. Claude grabbed Abigail's wrist, held it hard, and lifted her arm up to his eyes. Enough. Abigail. Go please, Quinn. Just like you said. I'm just a useless waste who eats, drinks and has fun every day. Abigail was extremely shocked. Even for a level 4 apostle, few people could resist her charm. But Claude in front of her repeatedly stayed sober in front of her. Could it be because his promotion was coming to an end and was about to be completed? Abigail. I know you. No one knows you better than me. You are a woman like a snake and scorpion. Go away. Go find a more powerful man. Isn't this what you want? The flesh on Claude's cheeks was twitching, and the battery in his abdomen was discharging violently, allowing Claude to stay sober, rational, angry, and hateful. Abigail in front of him was a thorough poisonous woman, and she was Quinn's poisonous woman. This was Claude's most profound understanding. Do you still hate me, Claude? I'm very happy, this proves that you still care about me. I have so many women, you are just the smartest one on the surface, but the stupidest one in fact. You take advantage of everything, but always make the stupidest choices. Silver Snake's physique is not strong. After being pushed away by Claude, he could only fall to the ground and look at Claude pitifully. Claude is a genius in dealing with women. He can always accurately grasp women's emotions. Abigail's charm is just an appearance. Claude clearly perceives the viciousness under Abigail's charm, which is one of the reasons why he can resist the power of charm. Claude opened the door and signaled Abigail to leave quickly. The next day, a dismissal notice was delivered to Claude, but Claude didn't care. Have you heard? Police Chief Claude has been dismissed. I don't know what mistake he made. The parliamentary election is coming soon, and he has lost power at this time. A police chief who is famous for having many lovers, please stop occupying such an important position as police chief. The parliament was full of discussions, but this did not affect Claude. It was good not to be the chief, so that he could focus on seeking promotion. Abigail did not dislike Claude's loss of power at this time. She came to the laboratory of the Alchemy Academy every night, hoping that Claude would accept her willingly. Claude had to do experiments during the day and deal with Abigail at night. He quickly became weak. At night, Kelida saw Abigail, that hateful woman, waiting for Claude outside the laboratory again. She couldn't be driven away. This woman was so thick-skinned that she didn't know what shame was. Passing by Abigail, Kelida walked into the laboratory with a dark face, and then closed the door of the laboratory heavily. She was sulking behind the door, and at this moment, she suddenly heard a whisper outside the door. The director's intention is to destroy his promotion. The last batch of materials is problematic. We have bribed the traitors. We can't let him get promoted at this time, otherwise it will cause chaos to our plan. Kelida was shocked. Could someone harm Claude at this time? She hurriedly walked into the laboratory, found Claude, and whispered to Claude what she had just heard in his ear. I know. Claude knew that this was deliberately for Kelida to hear. If the county trial office wanted to do something, Kelida would not be able to find out. Then, the county trial office had other purposes. Creating trouble for Claude is probably to lure out Rudolph. It is impossible to buy materials through formal channels. Now the two largest trading companies, Thor and Rondo, will take the initiative to stick to Quinn and pray for Quinn's protection. However, Claude knows that there is still a place that dares to sell him materials. On Friday, Claude went to the Black Gold office. Unexpectedly, he, a former police chief, had to rely on the Black Gold office to get what he wanted. As long as the price is high, there will always be someone willing to take over the deal. On the black market, someone soon took over Claude's transaction. After the Black Gold office handled the transaction, Claude did not leave directly, but waited outside the Black Gold office. After Rudolph disappeared, he sold a large number of magic tools at the Black Gold office. He must have been paying attention to the Black Gold office, so Claude guessed that he could wait for Rudolph here. Sure enough, not long after, a group of bats appeared silently beside Claude. The bats gradually gathered, and from the dark bat group, a person's head and shoulders appeared. From the armpits, some bats were flapping their wings, and further down, other bats were circling, which could form a complete body at any time. Claude knew him. This was Rudolph's friend Vanya. I don't know when Vanya became a level 4 vampire, and why his sleep was so short. I will try to get promoted in 4 or 5 days. Don't contact me. If you must contact me, find Jessica. Vanya nodded, and black cracks appeared on his head and shoulders. Soon, these cracks cut Vanya into bats, and the bat group scattered and disappeared into the night. The problem of materials had just been solved, and another problem immediately appeared. On Sunday, the laboratory of the Alchemy Academy was no longer open to Claude because the surrounding residents complained that the thick smoke emitted by the laboratory polluted the air. This was a good reason, and Claude had to leave the laboratory with his materials. But he was not discouraged. Claude found a blacksmith shop and rented his blast furnace. The materials bought from the black market were also transported to the blacksmith shop, and the finished steel and copper were also transported to the blacksmith shop. The conditions were a bit difficult, but he could continue. In the last critical period, Kelida could no longer help, and the processing of materials had reached the end, so Kelida just guarded the periphery of the blacksmith shop. The blast furnace of the blacksmith shop was still emitting thick smoke. Kelida sat on the wooden stakes outside the blacksmith shop, guarding Claude in the blacksmith shop. Kelida's level was too low, and she didn't realize that there were many people standing in the darkness in the distance. Director, did Abel really agree to use Claude to force Scorpio Wizard Rudolph to come out? Abigail stood behind Quinn and asked in a low voice. Tonight, we will use the suspension of Claude's promotion to force Wizard Rudolph to appear, but I don't know if Wizard Rudolph will be fooled. There are hundreds of witch hunters hiding in the darkness around. As long as the Wizard Rudolph dares to show up, he can be captured here and sent to the stake. Quinn touched his hooked nose and said, there are no eternal enemies, only eternal interests. Abel is not a saint. Money is generally tempting to Abel, but Abel's weakness is power. The difference between the acting speaker and the speaker is a world of difference. After a pause, Quinn continued, when I was still in Fabreau City, I hated Claude the most. Why can someone be so happy every day? Abigail thought of Claude when he was young. Everyone who was with him would feel that the sun would be brighter. He always brings happiness to those around him, and he always makes every woman obsessed with him. Go, Abigail, and start our plan tonight. Abigail walked towards the simple blacksmith shop. A dignified level 3 alchemist, former police chief, and disciple of Abel's acting speaker, was actually stuck in this ridiculous blacksmith shop seeking promotion. It was really pitiful. Seeing a tall woman coming from a distance, Kelida instantly became nervous. Her hand was on her waist, where there was an endless revolver. But the next moment, Kelida suddenly froze in place. Because a person appeared behind Abigail. Sam, when was Sam captured by Abigail? The county court's investigation of them was so detailed that even Sam and Kelida's relationship was known. Sam. Wake up. Don't be used by her. Sam stood in front of Abigail and looked at Kelida with the eyes of a stranger. Abigail shook her head. This little girl is really stupid. Can a level 4 charm be used on a level 1 vampire be unlocked by just calling out? I wonder when this young policewoman will understand that love is just a short-lived illusion and worthless. She is not in a good condition. She keeps coughing and can't sleep at night. What's more troublesome is the headache. I don't know when the headache will go away. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 283. Director, someone is approaching the blacksmith shop. Has any target appeared? No, the wizard Rudolph has not been found yet. After thinking for a while, Quinn said, unless the target wizard appears, don't expose our ambush. As for the blacksmith shop, let Abigail handle it by herself. Bang! The gunshot rang out, and a handful of soil splashed under Sam's feet. Kelada's first shot hit Sam's feet 10 centimeters in front. Her shooting skills were average, and she could easily make a mistake if she was too close and hit Sam's foot. Sam! Wake up! Sam's expression didn't change at all. He didn't have any fear of the gun in Kelada's hand, he just walked forward slowly. Kelada aimed at Sam's knee. This time, she was not prepared to be soft and must make Sam incapacitated. The vampire's recovery ability is also very strong, even if he is treated after tonight. However, from the shadow behind Kelada, Castle Bat suddenly appeared. These bats were silent, and several of them had already bitten Kelada's ankles. Kelada's ankle hurt and she was shot crookedly. She had never been a combatant in the police department, and she didn't have much time to practice shooting. Another castle bat bit Kelada's wrist. This time, Kelada calmed down, endured the pain, and shot Sam's knee 3 times. Sam also has the infinity revolver, which Rudolph gave him for self-defense. By the time Sam fired, it was too late. Sam didn't seem to notice the pain in his knee. He raised the gun and shot. His shooting skills were much better than Kelada's. The first shot directly hit Kelada's gun, knocking Kelada's gun away. The second shot hit Kelada directly in the lower abdomen, and blood instantly soaked the clothes in Kelada's abdomen. The third shot. Sam was completely crazy, and the third shot was aimed directly at Kelada's head. Many people who use guns will use this tactic to hit the body first to make the enemy lose resistance and unable to move, and then hit the enemy on the head to quickly kill the enemy. At this moment, Sam's pupils suddenly trembled, as if he was struggling for something, and the third bullet missed Kelada's hair. Abigail frowned slightly and looked behind Kelada at the entrance of the blacksmith shop. It is impossible for a level 1 vampire to resist level 4 charm, not under any circumstances. A woman appeared at the entrance of the blacksmith shop. Abigail knew that woman. That was the replacement that Claude found after she left, a level 2 silver snake named Jessica. It was this Jessica that affected Sam just now, causing Sam to be in a trance for a moment. Claude gave Jessica a lot of money and asked her to buy some witchcraft tools and potions on the black market to fight high-level silver snakes. Abigail thought the dressing mirror in Jessica's hand was ridiculous. She took a step forward, lay next to Sam's ear, blew a gentle breath of hot air, and teased Sam once. Sam raised the gun again and aimed it at Kelada's head. This foreplay is too boring, and it will delay my meeting with Claude. Sam was awake for maybe half a second just now under the influence of Jessica. He already knew what he was doing, and a line of tears appeared in the corner of his eyes. But the next moment, his expression fell into psychedelia again, his face flushed, and he did not hesitate. The trigger was pulled again. Kelada was bitten on the ankle and shot in the lower abdomen. She had already sat on the ground, looking desperately at Sam opposite. How could this happen? How could there be such a devil who plays with people's hearts? The gunshot sounded, but it was followed by a crisp metal collision. A knight's sword whizzed, spun, and was suddenly inserted in front of Kelada. The blade of the broadsword blocked the bullet and made a crisp sound. Jennifer came out of a side room of the blacksmith shop. Abigail's expression changed from frivolous to serious, and the person who came turned out to be Baron Jennifer from Gasset Town. Unlike the little policewoman, this Baron cannot be killed. She is a noble and it will be very troublesome to kill her. Baron Jennifer was also followed by her mother, Lady Leslie. Abigail is bored, Lady Leslie, one of Claude's lovers. She glanced at the blacksmith shop and couldn't help cursing in her heart. Claude was really a bastard. Apparently Jennifer Barron is here to help Claude at her mother's request. Because of Abigail's existence, only women can help Claude at this time. Mrs. Leslie and Mrs. Jessica stood together, and the two of them nodded in greeting. They knew each other's existence before, but had no contact with each other. Claude once proposed that the three of us get together, but I refused. Mrs. Leslie glanced at Jessica and said, "Now it seems that you are not bad at all, and you can show up at this time." In Fabreau City, Mrs. Leslie is also a person of high status. Facing a witch hunter, she is not as nervous as Jessica. Mrs. Leslie also holds a gun in her hand. Her father, Baron Harkham, did not let her follow the path of knighthood, but sent her to the Alchemy Academy. Therefore, she is also an alchemist, which will help the Baron family expand their connections. Not only these two people, but also a woman walked out from behind another side room of the blacksmith shop, Mrs. Betsy from Leemantown. Mrs. Betsy stood next to Jessica and Leslie, with a resentful look on her face. "Claude hasn't come to see me for a long time, but I'm still worried about him." "Thank you for the notice, Mrs. Jessica." Jessica knew that Mrs. Betsy next to her was also an apostle, a druid who broke away from the tribe and married into the city. This was the only woman she could find who was willing to come forward to protect Claude at this time. Jessica saw the venom on Abigail's face. It was a complex emotion, a feeling of incredible shock, a feeling of jealousy that should not be so, and finally turned into a face full of venom. It seemed that Abigail was the bad woman who murdered Claude, and the three women in front of her were the ones who were willing to take risks for Claude. And one of them was the mother of the Baron. She even brought the Baron's daughter with her just to provide protection for her lover. At this moment, the smoke column of the blast furnace in the blacksmith shop disappeared, and Claude's promotion reached a critical period. Jennifer was about to help Kelida up, but she changed her action in an instant and pulled out her knight's sword first. A knight's broadsword suddenly broke out of the ground, and the hand holding the sword was extremely pale, with patches of corpse spots on it. The body of the knight? Jennifer hurriedly used her knight's sword to block the sword, but the force of the sword was so great that Jennifer was chopped back with one sword. Jennifer's back hit the wall, and she supported her body with the sword. Damn, because male knights and cavalry cannot be brought, Jennifer can only come alone. The knight's body slowly emerged from the ground. The ground cracked and corpses emerged one after another. Among those corpses, there was a living person, the gravekeeper of the South City Cemetery, Cooper. After Cooper appeared, he did not look at Jennifer or Kelida, whom he knew, but turned his head first, slowly bent down, and kissed the back of Abigail's hand. Abigail continued to move forward surrounded by corpses. The situation suddenly worsened. Mrs. Leslie raised her gun and shot, and Mrs. Betsy raised her hand to summon vines. Mrs. Jessica's head was covered with cold sweat. Even with some magic weapons and potions, her ability could not solve the level 4 charm at all. Claude is just so-so. For more than 10 years, he has only found some lovers of level 1 and level 2, and they are still so useless. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 284. There were 5 women outside the door, but they could not stop Abigail. However, Abigail did not kill anyone, because Baron Jennifer was resolute. Every time Cooper made a killing move, Jennifer would block it, but Abigail did not dare to kill a baron. The tribunal has no such power to execute nobles, no matter how big or small the noble title is. After a while of fighting, the noise in the yard became much quieter. There were too many corpses of Cooper, and Jennifer could not temporarily become a level 3 knight, and could not stop Abigail, who was slowly moving forward. A knight's broadsword slashed open the iron door of the blacksmith shop, and the hot breath of the blast furnace room had an outlet and rushed out through the gap. After a few more swings of the sword, the iron gate was completely chopped down. Bricks support the chopping board, which is Claude's simple operating table. Although there was still fighting outside, Abigail walked in spotlessly and stood at the door. Behind the chopping board, Claude raised his head. His eyes were bloodshot, making his eyes look red. Looking at the fine steel and fine copper piled up randomly behind Claude, as well as some wires and switches on the chopping board, Abigail couldn't help but shake her head. Why bother, Claude, as long as you cooperate with the capture of the Scorpio wizard Rudolph according to Abel's wishes, you can become a level 4 alchemist with our full support. How could you be in such a mess like now, with no one to help you except a few women? Claude's hand went under the chopping board. Under the chopping board, he also hid a gun. He closed his tired and dry eyes, suddenly raised his hand, and shot Abigail. The revolver was frozen in the air, and Claude was unable to pull the trigger even though he didn't look at Abigail. Claude, do you really think you can resist my level 4 charm? I admit that you have made a lot of preparations, and only you know how capable I am. You are very good at controlling women's thoughts. You even found a silver snake to replace me. You may also have some interesting tricks in your body. However, these are useless. In the past few times, I was just playing with you. Abigail stood at the door, listening carefully to the signals outside, wondering if the wizard had broken into the encirclement of the judgment office. After a while, she was disappointed to find that there was no signal and it was quiet outside. That wizard is so cruel. He didn't even come to save you at this time. Now that the wizard has not appeared, the plan moves to the next stage. The wizard didn't know any way to block the divination of the level 3 speech spirit. Although the wizard couldn't be found, the tribunal had ways to lure the wizard out. Abigail twisted her waist and hips and walked towards Claude. Walking around the simple chopping board, she stood next to Claude, took out a handkerchief, and carefully wiped the black ash from Claude's face. The handkerchief had been wetted by Abigail in advance. Everything that might happen in the blacksmith shop was in her plan. The cold handkerchief gently wiped Claude's face, taking away the dirt and leaving it refreshing. Obey, Claude, follow our arrangement and contact the wizard. As long as the wizard dies, as long as Quinn avenges his father's murder, everything will be over, and you will still be the police commissioner with a bright future. You can even become a young level 4 alchemist. Abigail looked at Claude in front of her with distress, not caring that he just wanted to shoot and kill her. Claude's arm was still raised stiffly, aiming at the door where Abigail had just been. For an alchemist, raising a gun is such a simple action. All alchemists will practice raising a gun to increase the stability of the gun. Claude's action of raising the gun lasted only a few dozen seconds, but it made his arms tremble uncontrollably. The palms of his hands were slippery with sweat, and the handle of the gun slid in his palms. The muscles in Claude's arms were twitching constantly. He was fighting with himself, trying to resist Abigail's charm like he had done many times before. The corners of his mouth were getting lower and lower. Maybe it was the same as Abigail said, the previous few times, it was just Abigail's game. Not many level 4 apostles can resist Abigail's charm, let alone a level 3 alchemist like him. After carefully wiping the dirt on Claude's face, Abigail began to clean Claude's chopping board. The circuit on the chopping board was cut by Abigail. Her alchemy scissors were so sharp that the electromagnetic coils were disconnected like ordinary cotton threads. After that, Abigail reached out her hand, slowly touched down from Claude's waist, and pulled out a battery from Claude's abdomen. The battery carries a steel needle with Claude's blood on it. Abigail felt the resistance encountered by the power of charm, and determined that Claude had not yet been promoted. She stroked Claude's cheek and admired Claude's perfect profile. This is a level 4 alchemy witch. You can use it to disguise yourself as a level 4 alchemist, and use it to lure the Scorpio wizard to appear. You are still an obedient Claude, okay. Abigail took out a watch and put it on Claude gently. This alchemy watch is a level 4 witchcraft of the electromagnetic system. It can attack enemies with the square metal pieces on the strap. Claude suddenly regained his ability to move, but his expression was very unnatural. He raised the hand without the watch and stroked Abigail's cheek, neck, and shoulder. Look, you've made yourself covered with wounds, burns, scratches, electric shock injuries. Stop working so hard, Claude, you can easily live an easier life. The experimental equipment was too simple, and Claude's arms were covered with scars left by the electric shock. Abigail felt distressed when she saw these. What are your plans with Wizard Rudolph? Tell me everything, Claude. Claude told his ideas in detail: to be promoted to level 4 wizard, to run for vice speaker, and then to help Wizard Rudolph overcome difficulties. What a good arrangement. It seems that you are more cunning than Quinn thought. Standing in place, Abigail enjoyed Claude's tenderness for her for a few minutes, and then left him reluctantly. Her expression suddenly changed, like an actor with superb acting skills, with anger and unwillingness on her face. When she went out, she saw Jennifer and others still struggling, and she suddenly said, "Stop it." Cooper and Sam stopped attacking the women. Jennifer panted and leaned on the ground with her sword. She needed a chance to breathe urgently. It was too much for her to fight against the corpse of a level 3 knight with the strength of a level 2 knight. When Abigail passed by Lady Jessica, she looked up and down at the woman in front of her with a cold face, and her face was full of jealousy that could not be concealed. You won. Claude was promoted successfully, and I came too late. However, I will not give up such an excellent Claude. After that, Abigail left here with Cooper and Sam with a gloomy face. Not long after, Claude also came out of the blacksmith shop. It's okay, I was promoted successfully, and she can't do anything to me. Claude helped Lady Jessica up, helped Lady Leslie up, and hugged Lady Betsy. It's okay, everything will be fine in the future. He also took out the wolf poison potion and treated Kelita's injuries. Thank you, Jennifer, thank you for coming. Jennifer looked at the confident and excited Claude and felt relieved. As long as Claude becomes a level 4 alchemist, all problems will be solved. Mrs. Leslie and Mrs. Betsy were sentimental and could not help wiping away tears. Only Mrs. Jessica was relieved, but there was fear in the depths of her eyes. Claude did not express the secret code she and Claude had made. That night, Jessica took the initiative to give Claude to Mrs. Leslie, because the main contributors were Leslie and her daughter. When no one was around, she carefully took out a cloth bag. In the cloth bag was a bat. The bat disappeared in the night sky. This was the agreement between Claude and Rudolph, proving that the plan had changed and Rudolph needed to choose a new plan. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 285. In the city hall of Fabreau, the stepped pool was full of people. Members of parliament and nobles were all present. Today, the parliament will have a big event, a big happy event. Abel, acting speaker, walked to the podium. In the past 2 years, Fabreau has encountered many disasters. Insect plague, wolf tide, blood fog night, Revno's revenge, etc., all of which have plunged Fabreau into disaster and hardship. However, we Fabreau people will not surrender. Mr. Thor stepped forward in times of crisis and came out to work for us at an age when he should have been enjoying his retirement. We should thank Deputy Speaker Thor, and at the same time, we should also thank our young people. One of the young people is very outstanding. Claude, the former police chief, was successfully promoted a few days ago and became a level 4 alchemist at this critical moment. Abel deliberately paused for a while, waiting for people's exclamations to end. We will vote on Claude's appointment as vice chairman soon. Please let Claude make his campaign declaration first. Abel watched Claude bow to him, watched Claude walk to the podium, and watched Claude begin his passionate speech. He returned to his own speaker's seat. On his left was the seat of Vice Chairman Thor. Soon, his right would belong to his student, Claude. So far, Fabreau City has one speaker and two vice chairmen. In Vichy County, Fabreau City is not only not the city that will be withdrawn at any time, but also its importance is increasing day by day. Claude's speech was so decent and so impassioned. Abel narrowed his eyes and secretly glanced at Quinn, who was sitting on the side. Quinn's attitude towards Claude was very bad, but he had completely let go and let Quinn arrange Claude. Quinn had just died, and Fabreau City needed fresh blood and strong newcomers to give everyone confidence. The vote was passed very easily, and Claude became the new vice chairman. After the vote, Claude sat in his seat, waiting for the congressman to come up and talk to him and shake hands. Throughout the whole process, Claude was not tired at all. Even the most demanding old congressman had to sigh that Claude's etiquette was not problematic at all. Not far from Claude was Claude's new secret technique, a very plump and beautiful female secretary named Abigail, who was said to be one of Claude's lovers. That night, after the celebration dinner, Claude went to Bath. Bath had already gotten out of that state of infatuation and was much more normal. He was startled to see Claude's arrival, and the news that Claude became the vice president spread throughout Fabreau within a day. After enjoying a hot spring bath, Claude entered the single lounge dedicated to Rudolph, opened the window, and then lay on the recliner, waiting for something. In the second half of the night, a bat flew in from the window. Seeing that it was a bat, Claude looked a little disappointed. The bat kept splitting and eventually became many bats. A dozen bats gathered together, forming half of a person's face, and half of a head with only one ear and one eye, which shows the caution of the visitor. Claude and Vanya, who were in high spirits, said, "Vanya, help me tell Rudolph. I have become a level 4 alchemist and also the deputy speaker. I know a bad news, the priest of pain has not given up, and is preparing to hold a sacrifice. The last time the sacrifice was not completed, the evil god of pain was very angry. He even sent down divine punishment to punish the priest of pain for his ineffective work. This time, they will complete the sacrifice with a crazier attitude. My first job as the deputy speaker is to stop this sacrifice. Teacher Abel has agreed that as long as we destroy the evil god's plan, the city council will let bygones be bygones and will no longer hold Rudolph responsible. Tell Rudolph to help me complete this matter." Vanya was still silent, and a black crack appeared on his head. In a flash, a group of bats appeared on the spot and disappeared outside the window. Claude has been keeping a smile that a politician should have. He is now one of the controllers of Fabreau City, so he should be like this. Some witch hunters quietly chased out in the dark, but soon lost their tracks. On the full moon night of June, a large number of evil god priests once again poured into the Dordo district. In the square of the central area, several airships of the police station, the city trial office and the county trial office are ready and can take off at any time. In an airship of the county trial office, Quinn sat in the office with his eyes closed. Abigail stood behind him, gently massaging his temple. "Dear Quinn, until today, there is still no trace of the Scorpio wizard Rudolph. When no one is around, Abigail still likes to call Quinn's name. Well, the wizard is more cautious and cunning than imagined." Quinn was not in a hurry, and said in a leisurely tone, "But he will definitely appear tonight." Abigail's heart tightened, but her hands did not stop at all. Interrupting Claude's promotion did not make the wizard Rudolph appear, and Claude becoming the vice chairman did not make the wizard appear either. So, the only way left is to murder Claude. If this does not force the wizard to appear, then just get rid of Claude. Quinn is more serious than ever about the revenge for his father's murder. Quinn continued. "Abel has proved to us that he was indeed unaware of my father's death. He wants to take over part of my father's business. The county council means that Fabreau City still needs a local to control everything. Abel's attitude is very good, and the county council is very satisfied with him. However, Claude is different. Claude is very close to the wizard. Tonight, the wizard must come back, because Claude will definitely die. By using the evil god's hand, Claude can be eliminated, just in time to complete my father's unfinished business. The matter of the Ruhr mining area needs to be settled. It has been delayed for too long. To me, my father is still too kind and soft-hearted. He should have sacrificed the Dordo area long ago. And the slave trade should also be handled quickly. Such a delay will make those people in the county council dissatisfied, thinking that our family is indecisive, which is not a good impression. If the wizard does not come, then kill Claude first to avenge my father. If the wizard comes, then kill them together to avenge my father. How could such a good person like my father die tragically at the hands of these people? These people deserve to die. Abel deserves to die too. If I have the chance, I want to kill him too. Quinn's expression gradually turned cold. Abigail's hands were steady. During the comfortable massage, Quinn slowly closed his eyes and thought about things silently. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 286. On a full moon night, people from the police station and the 2 levels of judicial offices gathered together in the square in the central area and lined up in silence. On the Parliament side, Deputy Speaker Claude led the team. At the tribunal, Abigail leads the team. Do you miss me? Claude, when we were less than 20 years old, you were still a patrolman and I was a witch hunter. We met during a unified operation between the tribunal and the police department, and then fell in love. That was more than 10 years ago. I didn't expect it to change so much now. I became a high-ranking witch hunter, and you became the deputy speaker. This is Abigail's soliloquy, because if she doesn't control it, Claude won't be able to speak. Abigail looked at Claude's confident expression, and silently added in her heart, becoming the dying deputy speaker. When it has no choice but to do so, Silver Snake will set a goal and let the person who is charmed accomplish that goal by themselves. When possible, it is safer to do it yourself. In order to collect pain, the sacrifice of the pain priest must be long, so tonight there is enough time to implement Director Quinn's plan. In the Parliament at night, Abel's wife made a rare visit to the Speaker's office. In the past, she was only responsible for appearing with Abel at charity dinners or condolence events, and rarely interfered with Abel's work. She has always played the role of a helpful wife perfectly. Abel was also surprised to see his wife. Abel, Claude is a good boy. Abel lowered his head and looked at the document in his hand irritably. His fingers unconsciously rubbed a corner of the document, first moistening it and then crushing it. I don't know when, his palms were already covered with sweat. Of course I know that Claude is a good kid. He is very good. He is better than any kid in the Alchemy Academy. He obviously doesn't like studying, but he can always get high scores easily. He obviously doesn't care about promotion, but he always gets high scores easily. You can find topics smoothly and get promoted quickly. That's not what I'm talking about. Abel's wife was already crying. I know. I know better. Claude will always be like a child, maintaining sincerity, sunshine, and justice. But. Abel continued to lower his head, not daring to raise his head. But he shouldn't be so close to that wizard. The Alchemy Council can replace the royal family and nobles in ruling the kingdom not only because the alchemist army has the strongest combat effectiveness, but because the alchemist knows how to distribute benefits. Benefit. This is what everyone is pursuing. That's the key to manipulating other people. Claude will never be able to become a mature alchemist. He does not understand that those heretics are just tools for us to use. When a tool becomes dangerous, you should smash it decisively instead of being tied up or controlled by the tool. Quinn, Quinn does the best, so he can firmly hold the position of director of the county council's judicial department. Abel said a lot in one breath, and after finishing speaking, he was out of breath. He heard his wife's footsteps leaving, the hasty sound of high heels. "What are you going to do?" Standing at the door, Abel's wife turned her back and said, "Don't worry, I won't do anything. I won't interfere with your arrangements. I just feel sad. Don't bother me from tomorrow. Let me be alone for a few days." Abel's wife slammed the door and left. Abel knew that she really would not do anything. This was his chosen partner and would not cause trouble for him. However, Abel himself was not happy. He had obviously gained so much recently, but he was a little sad at this time. But who understands his difficulties? Quinn will do anything to avenge his father's murder. The Scorpio wizard Rudolph must die, and Claude must die too. This is the surrender he must hand in. Speaker cannot just be an empty title, someone must support him, and Speaker Quint's original forces are also what Abel must straighten out. He looked out the window, hoping that Claude would not be in so much pain. As the deputy speaker, it would be decent enough for him to leave in a graceful manner. In the square in the central area, people from the trial court and the police station left in formation. On the outskirts of Fabreau City, groups of priests stood in the woods, waiting for orders from senior priests. Jessica looked at the full moon and said to the many priests behind her, "Tonight, let us build the first pantheon in Vichy County in the city of Fabreau." The full moon sacrifice failed last time, but this time, the evil god priests were more prepared. The alchemist reached an agreement with them again. With the help of the alchemist's greed, the evil god's priests could not wait to ask for credit from the evil god. This time, no one can stop them. Behind Jessica, there are the insect high priest, white demon priest, oblivion priest, fraud priest, entrapment priest, abstinence priest, and the priests from several nearby cities. Most of them were persuaded by Jessica and came to Fabreau City. The city of Fabreau will do whatever it takes to get the minerals in the wilderness, and the priests will have much less resistance tonight. A group of priests, led by their respective chief priests, headed towards the city of Fabreau. On a rooftop in the Dordo district, Rodolfo and Yvonne looked at the almshouse in the distance. The two of them have no connection with the workhouse anymore. To their relief, everything seems to be normal in the workhouse and there is no retaliation against them. I don't know why the tribunal didn't take action against the workhouse. Maybe it was because of disdain. Larry stood up. He didn't speak. Rudolph also guessed the result. What's the result of the divination? Not very ideal. Not all options are one good and one bad, and then we choose the good one. Most options are like what we encountered tonight, each one is terrible, and we can only choose the one that is not so bad. How bad is it? There will be many force majeure, such as the emergence of level 5 abilities. Rudolph looked up at the full moon and continued. This is why many heretics are unwilling to fight against the Alchemy Council. The council is too large, an extremely large organization. What's the point of defeating the city council? There are also the county council, the provincial council, the regional council, and the royal capital council. This feeling is really desperate. Rudolph patted Yvonne on the shoulder. In any case, after 12 o'clock tonight, we must leave Fabreau City. You can't spend the full moon transformation here. It's too easy to be trapped by the Judgment Bureau after losing your mind. This is too dangerous. Yvonne nodded, knowing that her activity time is limited, but this feeling of being needed is good. She has to deal with the Silver Snake tonight. Both Rudolph and Claude need her to defeat the Silver Snake, and she will be the key to the plan. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 287. On the streets of Dordo district, people were coming in and out of bars and cafes, and the commercial district was even more crowded. Many changes occurred in the city of Fabreau, including an increase in wealth that benefited everyone. At this moment, many people looked up in shock, and a sharp siren suddenly sounded in the sky above Dordo district. This is a disaster warning. After hearing the alarm, everyone should return home as soon as possible and hide in the house and do not come out. If you have a cellar, it is best to hide in the cellar. Coupled with the sudden appearance of witch hunters and police officers on the streets, the residents knew that there was a special operation tonight. In this world full of heretics, there are always so many disasters, and many people are used to this constant tension. The new chief of the police department, Caden, asked Claude for instructions, but Claude said, "Caden, you are the director now, you need to decide these issues yourself, and you have to put the police department on your shoulders." Caden was recommended as the police chief by Deputy Speaker Claude, and now that he is so trusted, he was a little excited for a moment. "Deputy Speaker Claude, I will definitely complete tonight's task perfectly." Caden went to study with Arden, the director of the judiciary, on how to quickly capture the slaughterhouse. In the direction of the slaughterhouse, many evil priests appeared again. It seemed that the evil priests were ready to get up wherever they fell. The sacrifices on the outer walls are the introduction, and the main sacrificial area of the slaughterhouse is the most important place. The police station and the judicial office dispatched their own airships. A total of 7 airships floated forward slowly over the Dordo district. At the command point of the operation, Claude and Abigail stood on the square in Dordo district, looking in the direction of the slaughterhouse. Behind Abigail, there were several witch hunters from the county judgment office. The first gunshot was so bright in the night, and the crisp sound of the gunfire spread far away. After the gunfire ended, Dordo district fell into a long dead silence. I don't know how many seconds passed before violent and continuous gunfire erupted in the distance. Suddenly, there was a loud sound of gunfire in the direction of the slaughterhouse, accompanied by dazzling beams of light, swarms of insects, metal collisions, and the shrill singing of women. It was the evil priest who was attacking the police station and the trial court. Time passed by, and the battle between the two sides had lasted for an hour. The forces of the parliament and the evil priests were completely intertwined, and the battle was extremely fierce. The airship moved slowly forward, providing aerial fire support for the assault forces on the ground. The airship is getting closer and closer to the slaughterhouse, proving that the main battlefield is also approaching the slaughterhouse. Everything seemed to be going well tonight, until a police officer ran to the command post as fast as he could. "Deputy Speaker, there is no sacrificial altar in the slaughterhouse." The scouts on the airship reported that there was just a disguise in the slaughterhouse, no sacrifice. "There is no sacrifice." Someone immediately handed Claude a map. The pain priest did not place the two sacrifices in the same place. The defense of the slaughterhouse was just a cover-up, and the real sacrifices were elsewhere. Claude frowned and asked, "Can we still draw power from the periphery of the slaughterhouse now?" The police officer said, "No. There are so many evil priests in the slaughterhouse, and they are also very crazy, holding back our people." Claude nodded, indicating that he understood. He turned to look at the police chiefs, Abigail, and other witch hunters beside him. "There is no time to wait, let's go and investigate where the real sacrifice is." After finishing speaking, Claude was the first to set off and headed to the northeast of Dordo district. The slaughterhouse is located in the southwest of Dordo district. According to the scale of the sacrifice, only the northeast has such a large place for the pain priest to worship. Abigail, 4 sheriffs, 6 witch hunters, these are all the forces behind Claude. The lack of numbers does not scare Claude. His face is fearless and determined. After becoming the deputy speaker, he is bound to do something for Fabreau City. As he walked forward and looked at the map of Dordo district, Claude soon discovered the first peripheral sacrificial site. A dead man was nailed to a towering water tower. The man folded his hands, and an iron nail penetrated both of his palms. His head was bowed deeply, and his expression could no longer be seen. There were nails everywhere on his body. I don't know how many misfortunes he encountered during his lifetime. Death must be a kind of relief for him. Quick! The peripheral sacrifices have ended. We must destroy the main altar quickly. Claude's words made several police chiefs feel very urgent. Abigail concentrated on the manipulation without saying a word, just looking at Claude's hurried back. According to the map, the main altar tonight is a fur merchant's warehouse. The fur business is always slow in summer, so not many people pay attention to this warehouse. What hangs in the warehouse are not furs and furs, but living people, or in other words, sacrifices that are about to die. In the crowded room, there were whispers and moans one after another. On the roof of the warehouse, the insect hive Lord Priest Jessica and the white demon Lord Priest Velan are waiting on the roof. Here he comes, the deputy speaker is here. According to the agreement with Quinn, that's the person we're going to kill tonight. Jessica's bug told her that some people were coming not far away. Bald Velan couldn't help but ask, is this a trap by the Judgment Office? If we kill a deputy speaker, won't the Alchemy Council retaliate against us? Jessica said, the killing will be slower later. The main thing is to lure the Scorpio wizard Rudolph to appear first, so that the crime of killing the deputy speaker can be placed on the Scorpio wizard. What if the Scorpio wizard doesn't show up? No, Rudolph will come to save the deputy speaker. They are friends and they have a good relationship. Silver Snake said that the deputy speaker had lost his career for the Scorpio wizard and even quit his job as the police chief. The Scorpio wizard would not watch the deputy speaker die at this time. Silver Snake is a master at playing with people's hearts, and her judgment is not wrong. From my observation in Lehman Town, the deputy speaker and the Scorpio wizard Rudolph do have a good relationship. The few people dispersed and prepared themselves. Great goddess of harvest, in this mortal kingdom, your statue will stand solemnly in the magnificent pantheon. Please send down your divine power so that this mortal kingdom can feel the power of the goddess of harvest. Great Lord of holy light, in this mortal kingdom, your statue will stand solemnly in the magnificent pantheon. Please send down your divine power so that this mortal kingdom can feel the power of the Lord of holy light. Jessica and Velan each requested the power of the evil god in the name of the pantheon. The people behind Claude were all palpitating for a moment, as if something terrible had descended on this area. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 288. Outside the fur warehouse, there was a buzzing sound of many flies flying around. Looking closely, there were dense horseflies half a meter below the ground. These horseflies, which were the same size as bees, crowded together and spread around like a stream of stinky water pouring out of a sewage drain. Horseflies are one of the favorite pets of the evil god's nest. Jessica communicated with the evil god's nest, and the evil god sent his own pet. Abigail heard the buzzing sound under her feet. Most women hate insects, let alone a woman like Abigail who attaches great importance to appearance. On the hairy body of the horsefly, there is a pair of ugly compound eyes, and the drooping limbs are ready to climb on people's skin at any time. Before touching, I began to hate the feeling of itchy insects crawling on my body. A wave of nausea rose in my heart, but Abigail had to continue. In order to charm Quinn for the second time, she had to please Quinn. Quinn was her choice for the opportunity to be promoted to the 5th level Silver Snake. Strong hormones can make people lose their minds. This is the love at first sight between men and women. However, this feeling can only last for a few weeks. Some people will fall in love with someone else in 1 week, and some people will lose their feelings in 3 weeks. Men are fickle, and the thighs that they can't touch always make them more obsessed. Silver Snake uses hormones to deceive, so it can't exceed the limit of hormones. Even if she does nothing, Claude, Sam, Cooper, and others she captured may wake up in another week. Especially Claude, the scumbag who understands women's hearts the most, may wake up faster. For each man, a certain level of Silver Snake has only one chance to charm, unless the charm is upgraded, or after the upgrade, the same man will not be charmed by her twice. This is also the reason why Abigail has few followers now. Claude, Sam, and Cooper are all followers found on the road or in Fabreau City. Abigail must constantly attract new followers, and she must also try her best to please Quinn and let Quinn protect her, otherwise her safety will be a big problem. Because men are not only fickle, but also have strong self-esteem. Once they are free from the charm of Silver Snake, it is easy to turn love into hatred, or to hate because of being humiliated. Abigail followed Quinn to Vichy City because she could no longer stay in Fabreau City. Fabreau City was full of men who hated her after being charmed by her. Rape is close to murder, gambling is close to theft. Losing reason often means losing control. Many passionate murders are after passion. People ridicule Silver Snake as a slut, but who knows the pain of Silver Snake? A man was still obsessed yesterday, but today he wanted to use a knife and an axe. There are many more men in Vichy who want to kill Abigail than those who want to try the taste of Silver Snake. Abigail still remembers that when she took the risk to charm Quinn, Quinn wanted to kill her with such a terrible look after she got rid of the charm. Fortunately, Quinn only had power in his eyes. Between the body of Silver Snake and the subordinates of Silver Snake, he chose the more useful latter. Tonight, she wore a full set of black stockings under her black gauze skirt, and black stockings were all over her legs and body. There was insect repellent on these black stockings given to her by the high priest. Horseflies would only turn and dodge when they were very close to the black stockings, making her look like she was also troubled by horseflies. Others were not so lucky, and they could only move forward with the horseflies at their backs. These horseflies did not seem to have much attack power, but were very annoying. Because there were too many of them, a few horseflies would be crushed to death with one step. The feeling of something bursting in the soles of the feet was very bad. If you look closely, there are dense white eggs on the abdomen and back of the horseflies. These eggs are scattered in the air, and they are too small to be found. There are more and more horseflies in front, and it seems stupid to walk directly into the horsefly swarm. Claude ordered someone to bring some flamethrowers over. The police officers who came to support brought flamethrowers, and 3 police officers were in front, using flamethrowers to clear the way in front. The flames killed the horseflies in groups, and the air was filled with an unpleasant smell similar to burning feathers. Everyone stepped on the dead body of the horsefly on the ground, and the dead body of the horsefly became brittle and easy to be crushed, causing more white eggs to fly in the air. Beside Claude, police officers kept sending flares to the sky, signaling those troops who had left the battle to gather here. Soon, a police station's airship wanted to leave the battle in the slaughterhouse and turned around in the air. The name of the evil god Kundan is the god of craftsmen, and the priest Kundan is using their methods to block the airship. The airship that came to support Vice Speaker Claude took a lot of effort to get rid of the interference of the priest Kundan on the mechanical system of the airship. The arrival of the airship greatly increased the firepower that Claude could rely on. After a few flares were exchanged, incendiary bombs fell from the airship, paving the way for Claude. As for the possible damage to the surrounding houses, it was not considered tonight, at least Claude did not seem to care. With the addition of the airship, Claude and his team were much faster. At this moment, a group of locusts suddenly flew out from the fur warehouse. Each of these locusts was as big as a fist, much larger than the locusts in nature. Their mouth parts made a chirping sound, covering the sound of horseflies flying around. These locusts were all level 4 insects, flying towards the airship in the sky like a dark cloud. Empty all ammunition, the airship commander made a decision. For a moment, all the weapons on the airship began to roar, and according to the commander's order, All weapons were fired at the locust swarm. The locust swarm was so dense that the shells were blocked by locusts one by one and exploded in the middle before they landed in the fur warehouse. If there were 3 airships at this time, they could still break through the defense of the locust swarm, but if there was only one, it would not be a match for these level 4 bugs. A police chief said around, "Deputy Speaker, the evil god priest tonight is stronger than expected." They knew in advance that there was a level 4 insect nest priest in the evil god, but the level 4 insect nest priest could not make such a big noise unless the insect nest priest also communicated with the evil god tonight and got the help of the evil god. Claw just emphasized, "We have to be fast, quickly approach the main altar and destroy the sacrifice." Facing the alchemist's airship, choosing smaller bugs can have a better effect. For example, now, the level 4 locusts have opened and closed their mouthparts and have flown to the airship, starting to bite everything they can bite. The tarpaulin, metal railings, ropes, wooden boards, guns, and cannons of the airship, everything is food for the level 4 locusts. A police officer touched his forehead and found that iron filings had fallen on his head. The steel cables on his head were all bitten by the evil insects, and the iron filings fell like dust. Land. Land. Use fire. Use fire. The commander of the airship issued 2 orders. The first was to lower the altitude of the airship to avoid crashing at high altitude. Some locusts were already biting the connection between the airbag and the hull. The second order was for the police to use the flamethrower on the airship to deal with the insects. Abigail looked up and saw the airship slowly lowering its altitude in the sky. She was secretly satisfied. This airship was an accident. Logically, this airship should not appear. She still underestimated Claude's appeal. There was an airship that broke through many obstacles to support Claude. Next, it was Claude's turn to face the evil god priest. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 289. At the end of the street, there is a terrifying insect pile. The lower part is densely packed with horseflies piled up like a hill. Those horseflies keep crawling out of the insect pile and flying away. The space below 1 meter on the street is almost full of horseflies. The upper part is the spinning and flying level 4 locusts. The mouthparts of these locusts can eat steel. There are still a lot of them, hovering on the street like a dark cloud. Next to the fur warehouse, the height of the houses within a radius of dozens of meters is slowly decreasing. The hovering locusts are eating the walls. There are creepy sounds in the air, which are the rustling sounds of the mouthparts biting bricks and stones. As for the people in the house, they turned into blood mud as soon as the locusts entered. Jessica's figure can be seen through the gaps between the locusts. This is her first shot after becoming a level 4 priest. This time, she will never fail again and will definitely satisfy the evil god insect nest. Jessica also saw Claude and his group appearing at the other end of the street. This is their target tonight. Claude on the opposite side is part of the agreement. The last bit of fuel in the flamethrower was exhausted, leaving only weak smoke slowly drifting out of the barrel. Claude stood at the front, looking grim, staring at the main priest of the hive opposite. Jessica waved her hand suddenly, and countless locusts attacked Claude. Claude's arm dropped down, and 20 metal pieces the size of fingernails suddenly flew out of his sleeves. These metal pieces were originally part of the metal strap, but now they have become Claude's weapons. This watch is a level 4 magic weapon prepared for Claude. It is a magic weapon made from the relics of an electromagnetic alchemist, and it is perfectly suitable for Claude. Abigail stood behind Claude, focusing her attention on the darkness around her. Claude's play is seamless, so, Scorpio Wizard Rudolph, what are you going to do? There are 20 metal pieces on the metal strap of the alchemy watch. Claude held the dial in his hand, and the 20 metal pieces flew around Claude. There are many level 4 alchemical magic weapons. Explosive or flame magic weapons are more suitable for fighting against the high priests, but the one Abigail gave Claude is a physical attack magic weapon. 20 metal pieces are Claude's current weapon. Facing the level 4 locusts that came like a black cloud, Claude's metal pieces shot out. At extremely high speeds, metal pieces have a strong ability to cause damage. Even in this dark night, the naked eye can't capture the position of the metal pieces at all, and can only see faint silver lines. Fist-sized level 4 locusts exploded one by one in the air. Yellow-brown body fluids splashed in the air, like short cucumbers that were blown up. The smell of grass filled the air, making people sick. The reason why the insect plague is an insect plague is that killing the insects in front of you has no effect. The insects cover the sky and the sun, and there is no limit to killing them. 20 pieces of metal pieces can only form a metal storm with a diameter of several meters around Claude, but it seems a little small in front of the insect plague. As Claude moved forward, the metal sheet's defensive circle became smaller and smaller. Gradually, the juice from the level 4 locusts that were blown up splashed onto Claude's face. Circles of silver wire formed an ellipsoidal protective circle around Claude, preventing those level 4 locusts from attacking Claude. However, the sheriffs behind Claude did not have such strong abilities. Their guns had little effect in front of the level 4 locusts. They resisted for a short time. After the alchemical grenades were used up, the locusts approached. Then there was a creepy rustling chewing sound, clothes, metal badges, flesh, bones. Claude seemed to have not heard the sound at all, and was still patiently defending himself with metal sheets. Beside Abigail, there was a curl of smoke at this time. These smokes had the effect of repelling insects, preventing the locusts from getting close. After Claude adapted to the density and attack habits of the level 4 locusts, he continued to move forward. At this distance, it was still impossible to attack the high priest Jessica. Stepping on the corpses of horseflies and locusts on the ground, the smelly insect juice even accumulated into a pool. Claude stepped forward step by step, while Abigail retreated step by step. The insect repellent smoke beside her was getting lighter, and it seemed that it could not defeat the locusts in the sky. Jessica saw Claude getting closer and closer. The person in front of her had to be killed slowly. This was the requirement of the trial office. At a certain moment, some locusts narrowly avoided the metal sheet, broke through the defense, and landed on Claude. The mouth parts opened and closed, and before the metal sheet caught up, they bit Claude's lower back fiercely. Even if the metal sheet broke the locust's mouth parts remained on Claude's waist, biting a piece of meat tightly. There were more and more wounds like this. When Claude walked to the middle of Abigail and Jessica, in addition to the juice of the locusts, Claude also had his own blood under him. Abigail knew that this was the limit of this magic weapon. If it were any other enemy, this magical weapon could be a killer due to the number of metal pieces, its imperceptible size, and its fast speed, but against the high priest, it would have no advantage at all. Claude's pants disappeared from the knees down, bitten by the level 4 locusts, which exposed his calves. There were half corpses of more than a dozen locusts hanging on his calves, and the dead locust heads were biting the flesh on Claude's legs with their mouth parts. Jessica's offensive became more fierce. Now was the most critical moment of the plan. He had to follow the plot accurately and lure the fox out. Claude was going to move forward, but the next moment, something strange happened. On Claude's legs, red pustules suddenly appeared one after another. Round holes appeared on the top of the pustules, and half of a fat and white worm poked out from the round holes. Horsefly larvae, these disgusting worms appeared on Claude's legs. From the moment the horseflies appeared, the victory or defeat was decided. It didn't matter whether the horseflies lived or died. As long as the eggs were spread around, people who stepped into the area would be parasitized by the eggs sooner or later. After that, it was nothing more than waiting for the call of the high priest. One by one, the horsefly larvae buried their heads deep in the flesh and blood, sucking Claude's blood. Their tails were exposed outside, breathing the outside air. This is the unique structure of the horsefly larvae, using the tail to breathe and excrete. The horsefly larvae, full of flesh and blood, excreted on Claude's legs, making Claude's legs covered with grey pus. Claude's legs softened and he knelt on one knee. After kneeling on the ground, the horseflies swarmed and were about to get in through his clothes. Abigail looked at Claude kneeling there, and she was looking forward to it. "Come on, wizard, either kill Claude here or use Claude to attract Scorpio wizard Rudolph." Claude was also regarded by Quinn as the murderer of his father and a villain who colluded with Scorpio wizard. Therefore, Claude could only die early or late. Abigail was looking forward to it, looking forward to the wizard being as rumored, and having a close relationship with Claude, so that Claude could live longer. She was still very happy when she was with Claude before. After Claude got rid of the charm, he never retaliated against her, but treated her better. Claude refused to design to capture the Scorpio wizard, so what was the Scorpio wizard willing to do for Claude? "Claude, live a little longer, I hope you can live a little longer." Abigail's breathing became more and more rapid, and she became nervous. At this moment, amid the buzzing of insects, a white shadow fell from the sky, and a violent electric shock sounded in the air. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 290. A white wolf suddenly jumped onto the street. In fact, it is somewhat inappropriate to call it a street. All that is left is the ruins of wall columns that have been eaten away by locusts, just like a town that has been eroded by wind for thousands of years. The hurricane-like breath of the wolf blade, mixed with lightning, struck at the locusts. One after another, 2 breaths cleared away all the locusts within dozens of meters around Claude. A bat suddenly appeared next to Claude. The bat began to fission. After a moment, 2 hands stretched out among the bats and began to help Claude. 2 hands pressed on Claude's legs. Soon, Claude's legs turned lavender, and his blood was filled with toxins. The horsefly larvae died one by one, including the eggs hidden in Claude's body. Vanya's arms began to pick out fat horsefly larvae for Claude. Claude didn't say much. He was very weak and was tortured by these horsefly larvae. He looked forward and looked at Rudolph, who had just appeared. Rudolph stood between Jessica and Claude, staring at Jessica in the distance. The high priest can always arouse people's trypophobia. Jessica's appearance is so inconsistent with her attack methods, and such a beautiful woman has such disgusting attack methods. Seeing Rudolph, Jessica was relieved. The plan went well, and Rudolph came to save Claude. "Claude. In the end, I have to help you." Rudolph waved his hand and performed 5 purple fireballs in a row. A spell of 16 shots, and in a short period of time, 80 purple fireballs rolled forward in a manner that covered the sky and the sun. Whether they are horseflies or locusts, in the face of this level 4 witchcraft, they all turn into roasted bugs, like moths flying into the flames, making continuous explosions in the flames. The white wolf landed between Claude and Abigail, facing Abigail with cold eyes. The moment the white wolf appeared, Abigail hid towards a low wall. Is it this woman who gives Rudolph such a headache? How could a low wall full of holes be able to block her attack? Abigail recalled the information. Yvonne, the wolf girl in Lehman Town, must be the mutated white wolf in the Blood Trader gang. Then her charm power had no effect on the white wolf in front of her. The white wolf stared closely in Abigail's direction. Her mission tonight was to deal with the silver snake to prevent her from disturbing Rudolph. A huge breath with majestic electric light was ejected from the white wolf's mouth, and a deep groove was plowed out on the ground. In the breath, everything was smashed and scorched. The breath carried huge power, and rolled up towards the short wall where Abigail was hiding. There is Rudolph's purple fireball in front of him, and the white wolf's wolf blade breath behind him. The purple fireball is very fast, and the wolf blade breath is also very fast, but they are not as fast as light. A white light bead floated from the fur warehouse. The light bead emitted incandescent light and illuminated the entire street. When he saw the direction of the fur warehouse getting brighter, Rudolph's scalp tightened instantly. He no longer paid attention to observing the attack effect of the purple fireball, but mobilized his star power to pour into the ground under his feet. Whether it was dozens of purple fireballs or wolf blade breath, the power of the apostle contained in it instantly melted in front of this light. I don't know when, behind Jessica, the insect corpses had piled up into a low mountain, allowing Jessica's figure to hide behind a hill to avoid being exposed to direct light. The evil priest actually has such a powerful magic. The power of this white devil magic has exceeded the level 4 magic. Abigail seemed to have anticipated the situation she was about to face, and hid behind a low wall to avoid the light of the white devil. Velen communicated with the evil god White Demon. This light bead is a universal light bead with a trace of the white demon's divine power. Rudolph was grateful that he had mastered the earth element witchcraft. At this time, 3 earth walls he made appeared on the street. Rudolph hid behind the first earth wall, and Vanya and Claude hid behind the second earth wall. The white wolf was huge and was illuminated by the white devil's light, and had to break away from its transformation at this time. Hiding behind the third earth wall. The werewolf's recovery ability made the burns on Yvonne's body disappear quickly. According to Rudolph's plan, after rescuing Claude, he should leave immediately. But several of them were trapped behind the earth wall. However, Rudolph did not panic. This kind of powerful magical power consumes a lot of energy and cannot last for a long time. If you be patient, you will soon be able to wait for the magical power to end. In the square in the distance, the witch hunter saw the light created by the white demon priest in the distance. He quickly turned around and ran towards an airship. Has the prey finally taken the bait? Their plan can be said to be so perfect that even the deputy speaker really gave it to Claude, so he was not afraid that the Scorpio wizard would not believe it. Quinn signaled to the witch hunters behind him to start taking action. A small airship took off from the judgment office and headed towards the light created by the white demon priest. After the airship took off, Quinn first came to a huge box. This box is a cube with a side length of 2 meters, and the multiple doors of the airship have been modified for it. The box was inlaid with copper wire, which was now glowing red and yellow under the blessing of alchemical power. Let's end the chaos in Fabreau City. Rudolph tried it. In the light of the white devil, he could not create a new earth wall, and the star power in the earth wall would instantly collapse. Fortunately, although the star power in the previously created earth wall disappeared, it did not affect the continued existence of the earth wall. He sat close to the earth wall. To the left, right, and top of the earth wall were dazzling lights, leaving a shadow behind the earth wall. Just as Rudolph was waiting for the light to end, he saw a series of ridges crawling on the ground, as if there were some bugs in the soil gathering behind the earth wall. It can be expected that once the white magic's beam ends, these bugs will rush out of the ground and attack instantly. Rudolph frowned. The situation was a bit bad. He felt that they could hardly capture the main altar guarded by several chief priests. Claude is now the deputy speaker. The more correct approach is to let Claude mobilize a large number of forces and cover the main altar with intensive firepower, rather than letting them rush in. He communicated with Vanya, who had almost picked out the horsefly larvae on Claude's legs. A few seconds later, the light behind the earth wall suddenly disappeared, and darkness enveloped the street again. 3 figures suddenly flew out from behind the 3 earth walls. Rudolph, Vanya with only the upper body took Claude, and the 3 flew into the air. The moment they flew up, centipedes emerged from the ground. If they moved slower, they would be entangled by these centipedes. Abigail saw Claude flying away, but she was not panicked. He could not escape Abigail's control. Rudolph flew quickly to Claude's side. "Claude. The situation is not right. We will retreat first, you call for support first." Claude raised his eyes and glanced at Rudolph. Because the horsefly larvae sucked too much blood, Claude's cheeks were a little sunken at this time, and he looked very painful. Rudolph put Claude's arm on his shoulder, and helped him up with Vanya to fly into the air. No matter how dangerous it was, they would always deal with it together. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 291. Abigail also waited for the end of the white magic beam behind the wall where she was hiding. As soon as she poked her head out from behind the wall, she suddenly saw a wolf blade breath with a diameter of nearly 5 meters and full of electric light. The wolf girl transformed into a white wolf again and continued the fight between the two women. The white wolf exhaled a large mouthful of white air, expressing her dissatisfaction. As soon as she exerted her strength, she found that this was not a fight between two women, because a wall of thorns suddenly appeared in front of her. Dense thorns suddenly grew on the ground and on the wall. These thorns formed an impenetrable wall. Each curved and coiled thorn was as thick as an arm, and it had long thorns that made people feel afraid. These thorns were so hard that the wolf blade breath collided with the thorns, making a harsh, dense thorn-breaking sound, and also making the tail sound when the wolf blade phantom disappeared. The wolf blade phantom in the wolf blade breath was quickly consumed. After a few seconds, there was no more thorn wall on the street, and no more wolf blade breath. At this time, behind Abigail, a man in a witch hunter uniform threw away his tunic, revealing his muscular upper body. "My goddess, I'm very glad that I followed you to Fabreau City. Otherwise, what would you do if you were to face such a situation alone?" Abigail looked at the level 4 druid with admiration. "Yes, thanks to you, but it's a pity that there is too much work in the Judgment Bureau, so I don't have much time to accompany you. I really want to finish dealing with things here and spend a few days with you." This is the druid she captured on the road, and it is also her biggest reliance on this trip. The level 4 druid showed a satisfied expression on his face. He paid a lot just to hear a few words of love like this. Abigail is a master of time management. She can keep several important lovers unaware of each other, of course, except for Director Quinn, who knows everything about her. White Wolf looked back at Rudolph and Claude flying high in the sky, knowing that he must not miss it and must strive for Rudolph to fight back. With a handful of burning white air coming out of her mouth, the White Wolf's wolf eyes stared at the druid and the silver snake in front of her. She had to drive the two away from here, one to weaken the silver snake's control over Claude, and the other to avoid the white demon priest. If the white demon priest attacks again, she may not be able to find a suitable shelter. The white wolf exerted force on its hind paws, kicked the ground hard, and its hind paws sank deeply into the ground, and then pounced forward. Lightning condensed in her mouth, and it seemed that she would spit out breath in the next second. Seeing this, the level 4 druid hurriedly created the wall of thorns again. Once hit by the mutant white wolf's lightning breath, the body will be instantly shredded into pieces. He was more worried about the delicate Abigail. How could such a watery woman be in such danger? The wall of thorns blocked the sight of Abigail and the level 4 druid. At this time, the collar on the white wolf's neck suddenly turned into iron bat wings, and took the white wolf into the air. This breath of lightning came from top to bottom, passed over the thorn wall, brushed the top of the thorn wall, and rushed to the two people below. "Be careful!" The druid hugged Abigail's waist, and a thorn shot out from his other hand, hitting the ground behind him, dragging the two to the back at the critical moment. Abigail looked at the druid, who was still admiring her appearance at close range at this time, and her face also responded, with a frightened and pitiful look, as if she desperately needed the druid to protect her. The druid was delighted and followed Abigail to this small town on the border. He waited in the tavern every day, just wanting to get closer to Abigail. Now, under the threat of the White Wolf, he can finally get close to her. The druid knew that the situation was critical at this time, but his face was still slightly intoxicated. Abigail was so fragrant. Who would have thought that the wolf girl in Lehman Town would be so powerful? Abigail looked up at the sky and saw that a police airship was approaching here as planned. Claude would board the airship, but she was dragged here. But she was not in a hurry. Even in the worst case, Claude could continue to act according to the preset goal. The battle on the ground continued. In the night sky, Caden commanded a police airship to fly towards the fur warehouse. He held the railing tightly, his heart pounding. Thanks to the existence of the Ruhr mining area, a large amount of resources appeared in Fabreau City. The city police station can also be equipped with several airships, and Caden can also collect about 10,000 gold shields needed to be promoted to a level 3 alchemist with the help of Claude. Speaking of this, Caden is very grateful to Vice Speaker Claude. It was Vice Speaker Claude who helped him become a level 3 alchemist and helped him become the chief of the police station. In the next battle, there were brutal heretics. Although his ability as a level 3 alchemist could not play a big role, he had to do his best to complete Claude's arrangement. He commanded the latest model of the police airship and rushed to Claude. Soon, several figures flew onto the airship. Caden looked over and saw that the person in the middle was Vice Speaker Claude. But the people next to him almost made Caden's heart stop. There was a person on each side supporting Vice Speaker Claude. On the left was the most wanted criminal in Fabreau City, the vampire Vanya. On the right was the Scorpio wizard Rudolph. Vice Speaker Claude didn't know what method he used to lure these people onto the airship. Caden put one hand behind his back and gave orders to the police officers hiding in the command room and other rooms, asking them to be ready to attack these terrible heretics at any time. Claude was surrounded by heretics, but he did not show any nervous expression. Instead, he nodded to Caden and said, "Caden, are the ammunition ready?" Caden quickly saluted. 3 bases of ammunition are prepared, enough to change the terrain of a certain area in a short time. Very good, aim at that warehouse, and shoot immediately after reaching the attack position. Jessica on the ground also saw the broadside gun that was aiming, and felt annoyed. No matter how to trade with the alchemist, it is a huge loss. It was clearly agreed that the evil god priest would build the Pantheon in the end, but they always suffered heavy losses in the process. Groups of level 4 locusts flew up from the ground, like a sandstorm, attacking the airship in the sky. Flamethrower. Get ready, Caden gave the order, but he knew that ordinary flamethrowers could not deal with these level 4 evil insects at all, and it was nothing more than adding some confidence to his side. However, Caden saw the Scorpio wizard Rudolph standing at the railing of the ship's side at this time. The wizard raised his hand, and the night sky was suddenly illuminated by a purple fireball. In the dazzling purple light, fireballs fell one after another, like a purple peacock spreading its tail in the night sky, with the unique whistling sound of flames, hitting the evil insects. In the flames, the evil insects were poisoned and burned to death one after another. The police officers on the airship couldn't help but be excited, but they didn't know whether they should applaud and cheer for a wizard. Caden's face was illuminated by the purple flames. He secretly drew out the alchemical dagger hidden behind him. He saw that Vice Speaker Claude also secretly drew out the alchemical dagger. God bless, let them all succeed. The Scorpio wizard is worthy of being a heretic that the police officers and witch hunters in Fabreau City are secretly afraid of. One person actually suppressed so many evil insects. Attack, Vice Speaker Claude gave the order. This order was given to the airship, but not only to the airship. In the purple flames and evil insects all over the sky, the artillery and rockets of the police station airship roared and attacked the warehouse on the ground. The counterattack of the high priest was more fierce, and the witchcraft of the Scorpio wizard was more crazy. Caden was secretly happy in his heart. He noticed that the Scorpio wizard's hand was a little unstable and began to shake and tremble slightly. The long-term and high-intensity release of witchcraft consumed a lot of the Scorpio wizard. However, the wizard's efforts made the airship's attack successfully hit the fur warehouse. For a while, the warehouse was full of roars and explosions. Caden's breathing stagnated. At this moment, Claude stabbed the Scorpio wizard Rudolph's back with the alchemical dagger fiercely. The dagger pierced the wizard's back fiercely. The wizard raised his hand to release witchcraft and didn't react at all. Done. Kill that wizard. And Caden stabbed his alchemical dagger into the back of the vampire Vanya. Caden felt the feeling from his palm and succeeded. The sneak attack succeeded. If the ending is now, are the book friends afraid?